we were live on Facebook, but we're not. We weren't. So hold on. Let me.
Yes, it's live. We're saying it's live right now. We're saying it's live. We're not live on Facebook yet.
We're live on. I'm live on Instagram. You seeing us live?
Oh yeah, it is. I didn't. That's right. I got to plug. No, there it is. There it is. I had to plug it now. For some reason, I didn't. There it is. Did I?
We're live on. I'm live on Instagram.
Oh, there it is. No, I just had to do a request. There it is.
So wait. Is that coming from our Facebook page? I'm sorry, guys. We usually like to be on time and have
this is just one.
It's just a little. We're just learning some things today. So you said, Evan, you said I'm live on Facebook.
No. Now I'm gonna get on Facebook. Are you live on Facebook? I'm about to see. No, you're not.
Drop your whatever's playing in the background. You got to turn it off. And actually, even I do. I gotta turn my Instagram on.
Oh, that's not me.
Okay, so it was.
It was you.
It was not me. Okay, all right. So
find us on. We're not live on Instagram yet, on Facebook yet.
Okay, so we're just live on YouTube, so that's okay because StreamYard is not cooperating. So for Facebook, so hopefully, y'all who are watching us on Instagram, what's going on with your phone, Evan?
No, nothing. Just turn it down. Now we're good.
It flipped. Okay. So we have oh, I can't pronounce your name, my love. Paleo.
Somebody's
Paleo
on.
Human. All right, let's get started. So we're just gonna take two.
No,
so that our editor can fix it in post-production.
Facebook.
What's that?
We're not on Facebook yet.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. We would have to jump off and come back, and we can't. We need to get started because you got other things to do.
All right, we'll just repost on Facebook. So and we'll edit it before we post. So should we start?
We've been telling the people to come to YouTube and Instagram for a minute. So yes, take 3. Go ahead, introduce the show.
All right. Hi, I'm Evan.
You don't even. It's like half of your face on Instagram, Evan. Can you see your phone?
No, because see, this is it is. Okay, ready? Now
here we go.
I'm looking up here. I'm looking at the camera.
It's up to you. Just mix it up.
Hi, I'm Evan Park. And seriously, this is unprecedented. And
You're such an actor. Huh?
No, because this is light. This is not we're discussing serious stuff, but it's not like brain cancer though, which is more serious, right? Because my mom had that.
Evan, introduce the show, Evan.
How you doing? I'm Evan Park, and I'm here with Lolade Siambola. It's unprecedented. We're critiquing and celebrating Black film and content from the diaspora for y'all to enjoy. And this episode is episode 2. We did episode 1 already. Episode 1's already recorded. We're doing this one live, which is you can see. You could probably know it's live. We're figuring it out when it's live, so we're making this very bold move. But at the same time, this episode is, for the most part, we do have structure. The first part is all about Lolade. Last time, a lot of the episode, right? A lot of the episode was about me, but I'm not as interesting as Lolade Siambola.
Thank you. I'm just saying thank you.
So I'm going to be asking a bunch of questions first. And Lolade is going to basically, why we did it this way is that so you can understand sort of the why we're doing this, why we're here, why this is important to us, or why unprecedented needed to happen, and sort of that's why we are doing it the way we're doing it. So we think it's important that you know a little bit about each of us. So today's more Lolade, and I'm gonna ask her questions, then we're gonna get into the next part of the show and talk about a few other things, right?
Yeah.
Correct?
Chadwick Boseman. We got to talk about our beloved Chadwick Boseman.
We're going to talk about Chadwick. Sure. No, we're going to talk about Chadwick. So, Lolade, tell us what led you to media.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about that question because you told me you were going to ask me that, and I was like, I can't even say that I was led to media. I I've always been into media and the arts. You know, I was just talking to my PhD advisor yesterday and telling him how, you know, because my thesis is on Black creatives. And I was like, I've always been an artist. You know, I've only been able to express it in different dimensions. You know, I remember drawing a lot as a kid, and I took a lot of theater classes. I think I told you this, took a lot of theater classes in middle school, high school. I used to want to be an actress. I used to watch One Life to Live. I would watch One Life to Live, and I would put a towel on my head, and I would just, you know, say the lines and shit. Well, my daughter be doing it right now. So I've always been interested in media, but with Nigerian parents, you know, when it came time to make that choice for college, it was like computer science. It was the closest thing I could get to like the multimedia classes I was taking in high school. So I always knew I would do something in the arts. I guess I kind of put the dream down for a long time, and I worked in tech, and I went back to grad school because I was like, I need to have a space in which I can just explore the dimensions of Blackness and build a body of work on that, you know? And I felt like that could be, you know, it could be anything. So I've been really, really lucky in that sense. But all along though, you know, that time, so my master's thesis was on Nigerian immigrant identity. So I was looking at Nigerian immigrant identity. Yeah. So like primarily second generation Nigerian immigrants in the US. So for my master's, I looked at folks in New York, Tokyo, and Mumbai. So I got to visit Japan and India and just kind of observe life there. But yeah, ultimately it was like, I just want to tell our stories, but I want to do it in a way that like rewrites the canon, you know? I was talking to a friend of mine at Princeton yesterday, and she said that they did a study to look at how many, Aderayo, what's up if you're watching? She said her and her cohort did a study to see what, you know, what authors, like the demographic sort of landscape of authors that they were using to teach anthropology, right? At Princeton. And it was like 90% white men, you know? And so for me, it was really ultimately about like establishing Black knowledge in the same, you know, in the equal plane with everybody else's knowledge, right? Because we have so much of it and we haven't been able to capture it. So now I'm in a position to do that, and I want to focus on media, creatives, storytelling, artists, right? Painters, the people who are telling our stories and projecting Blackness into the world in the way that is most exciting and inspiring for me. Does that answer your question?
I have two questions from that, and I hope I remember the second one after I asked the first one. Talk a little bit about the sort of Nigerian parents in the arts, because that was similar to me, Jamaican parents in the arts. And it's funny because some Jamaicans, I'm sure you meet some Nigerians who be like, my parents didn't do that. They were totally behind it. But you know, that's probably an exception. You know, most I talk about immigrant families come here, you know, they have no reference point in terms of success in the arts, right? Like they at least from what I understood. Let me give you an example. Like my parents, I was in the middle of my movie and TV career, and I come back home, my parents would ask me, you need any money? I'm like, and then it didn't really hit them until I did a movie and flew them out to New Zealand, right? Flew them out to New Zealand to see this big studio lot that they built a lake on the back of. And after that, they finally got it, right? So
they were like, oh, actors can actually eat.
They actually eat well. Right.
And what time period was that? When was that?
That was 2003 or 4 about. Okay. 2004. When did I shoot? I'm thinking specifically about King Kong. About 2000.
I was in college then. King Kong? That was King Kong? You did King Kong 03? I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if that's me. That could be my side. That's what I'm kind of.
Just make sure your phone. Just make sure you turn the volume all the way down on your phone.
Yeah, it's all the way down. Okay. So I don't know. Maybe I need to mute. Oh, I know what I need. Something on this. Can you hear me? No more echoes.
I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So, well, there's a little bit of echo, but so I'll just hold it in my hand and make sure there's no. You see, this is what going live is about. Just being transparent and real, right?
It's real. We got to start. You know, it's about starting. A lot of people have dreams, but they don't start. So we're here.
So we're here. So yeah. So two things. Tell me about that immigrant thing with the arts. I don't know how else to describe it. And because for me, you know, it led me to going to college and thinking about being an engineer, right? You know, when I really was not an engineer. Outside of math, I wasn't an engineer. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So then I realized, oh, we're not going to do this. You know, particularly when, you know, I took this chem class that really told me that I wasn't really going to be there. This chem for majors kind of was like the wake-up call. Like, no, this is not really what I'm supposed to be doing.
This was in college.
It's in college. So tell me about that, number one. Number two, there's something else. See, I knew I was going to forget the other one. But let's talk about it'll come back to me, the immigrant families in the arts.
Sure. So I was lucky in some sense. I mean, my parents tried, you know, my mom is Yoruba, my stepdad is Edo. And so we grew up in Columbia, Missouri. And, you know, and I was just writing in my dissertation yesterday or my first year paper, how like, I got to do some things, you know, they were working class and like coming from Nigeria, like the backgrounds they came from, like they didn't come from nothing, you know, like my mom's a royal lineage, but like they didn't have no money. They lived in like one room, you know what I mean? My mom told me the room was like 10 naira at the time. And that's like $10 because naira was equivalent to the dollar back then. So all of that to say, like, when you come from that background, your focus is like, I got to educate my kids so that they can get good jobs, you know, because that was the indoctrination that the British did so well. It's like the only way you're going to be able to have a decent living is you come and work for us, right? In one of our corporations or, you know, civil service, whatever. So my mom was born the year that Nigeria got its independence. And
what year was that?
You know, at that time, that was 1960.
Oh, 1960, okay.
1960. Wow.
Mm.
So, you know, at that time, it was like this transition into like Nigerian rule, but still very British, right? They were still very much puppet strings, and even till today, right? We're just now starting to break away from that. So all of that to say, you know, the mentality was very like civil service, bank, corporate, you know, lawyer, doctor, engineer, or failure, right? It's like we are trying to get our kids. And my mom was the first in her family to go to school. You know what I mean? Like she was the first woman to get a degree, you know? And so for us to be, you know, for me to be in Cambridge, it's like we skipped so many generations, things that could have taken, you know, so long to happen. So all of that to say, like, no, the idea you want to be an actress, you want to be a singer, like, what is that? There was no example. There was no model. There was nobody for them to look at and be like, oh, this Nigerian immigrant, you know, became a superstar and they were able to feed their families, you know. Now we have lots of those models. So I did all the things as a kid. I drew, I wrote. My mom was really supportive of me writing. So I really appreciate that. Shout out to mommy. And then like I danced, we would perform, you know, at like Nigerian parties. We had a few friends, we would choreograph dances. And then I started to get into poetry thanks to Lauren Hill. I did like, you know, poetry classes all through middle school, high school, took theater, like acting classes, but it was all like white, you know, all that white content. And my teachers were horrible, but I was good at everything. I'm really gonna pick myself up. So I was good at the math, I was good at the science, and I was good at the creative. But I had this chemistry teacher my last year in high school who was an absolute bitch. Like she was just mean as hell. I was really good at science up until then. So that at that point, I couldn't get through chemistry. Like if I had a question, she just made me feel stupid, you know? And like she just couldn't teach. She could not teach to save her life. No. So I got through high school, and the thing that I enjoyed the most in high school was multimedia publishing. So I took these like desktop publishing classes. That was when, you know, I learned Photoshop and all those things. I really, really enjoyed it. But when I got to, you know, it came time to like, I had to kind of figure out college on my own, applying to college, getting scholarship. My parents didn't know nothing about that, you know? And so by the time I figured out, okay, I'm actually going to college for free, you know, then it was like, okay, what is my degree going to be in? And I had been saying I wanted to be a lawyer. I took a lot of debate classes in high school. You know, I was really like me and my partner, we got first place, our first debate tournament ever. And so I was like, okay, I could be a lawyer. You know, I like talking or whatever. So I was going to do pre-law, study political science, go to law school, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. My parents were like, well, what if, you know, that lack mentality, what if you don't finish or you don't go to law school, you know, political science is not going to give you something to fall back on. So that was how I started looking for something else. And I really wanted to do like the multimedia desktop publishing stuff. But I didn't have the advisement back then to know that like I needed to study communication, you know? Mm-hmm. And so the person who advised me, I was like, I want to do something with computers to please my parents, but, you know, it's not going to be, I wasn't really into coding. I just wanted to do something with computers.
Right.
So the guidance person that I was speaking to at the university, I went to University of Missouri, Mizzou. Shout out to Mizzou. Almost all my siblings were there. Say that again?
With high school in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah. I was in the U.S. since I was 7. Yeah. So, yeah, I went to Rockbridge High School, Columbia, Missouri. And, yeah, it was, what was I talking about before? I was talking about my high school and then deciding to do computer science. Yeah, I studied multimedia production and whatever. I did like a lot of photography projects. I created a magazine, all these things. And so when I got to college, it was like, okay, I want to do something with computers, but if I say I want to do, design, like my parents are not going to be here for that, And so that was how I chose computer science. And it wasn't until the tail end of my degree that I actually got into it a little bit, because that was when I learned about web design, right? And that was the first sort of creative dimension of computer science. I was in school from 01 to 04. So that was a time when, we were still, everything was HTML. Like, you don't even know about this stuff. But for me, like anybody who codes or who knows about like,
90. It's older.
Literally, like I learned COBOL in college. Like anybody who knows COBOL, if you know what that is, drop a emoji. Like we're talking like ancient history. So yeah, like I hated my degree program. Like every semester I told my friends I was going to change my major. I wanted to study communications, and I just never did it because I just wanted to get the fuck out of Missouri.
And
I was like, get me out of here.
Now, why do you feel that way about Missouri? Just curious.
Oh my God, this is like therapy. Thank you, Evan. Okay, we're just gonna have therapy.
But that's just me.
Huh?
I feel the same way about Long Island. I'm like, I don't know.
Oh my God, it was just so white. Like you gotta understand, my first memories, my earliest memories, I'm like in the market in Lagos with my mom and all these red peppers everywhere. You know what I mean? Like that, the vibration of that, I missed that so much. And so, because when I was 5, we went to the UK. And that was where, that was my first encounter with white people. Right. So I remember this little blonde white girl, blue-eyed D-word, and, blonde, all of that. She was mean AF. And it was interesting. I think I was like in an ESL class or something. I don't know what it was, because like everybody in the class spoke a different language. There was a guy in there named, oh my God, there was an Arab guy. Ishmael, there was Chinese, there was Jamaican, there was Japanese, there was everybody from every part of the world, like within this class. And so when we had to interface with the white folk, like they were just mean. So when I got to Missouri, I was like, get me out of here. I've always just wanted to be in Africa. That's always been the thing with me. So I just wanted to go back to the continent. But I mean, when I left Missouri, it was like, I always knew I wanted to live in New York because diversity, energy, whatever the stuff I was seeing on TV, I don't know what it was that ultimately, got me about New York. I always think about The Godfather and Malcolm X and, just the energy of that, and just having an idea of a place where you could just be, and it wasn't, and clearly like my parents were very strict Nigerian immigrant parents who were working 2 jobs, who didn't have time for the bullshit, who were like, get your degree, get good money, and, just get married, let's do the thing, right? And so I wasn't here for that. I've always been a free spirit, And so I was like, I'm moving to New York. I used to tell my friends in high school, I was like, I'm moving to New York. Like, I had this accent that I would do. Like, I was just like, it's New York or bust, and it also was like a step closer to Nigeria and going back home. Because I hadn't been back to Nigeria since I was 5. I didn't get to go until I was like 26 or something. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You're moving to New York eventually, right? No?
Yeah, I moved to New York eventually. I lived in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn for like 13 years.
Yeah. Did you love it?
Oh my God. Like,
okay, there you go.
It was heaven on earth for me at the time. Huh?
Right. That's your answer.
It was heaven on earth.
Said it, right.
It's one of those things where you're just lucky to be alive at a particular time, because I can't imagine if I had to move to Brooklyn now. There's still a lot of stuff, that's popping, but like, I can't. Oh, Brooklyn was so special, man. It was just so special. The first time that, I mean, for me, it was the first time I was around like purely Black environment, right? And so that just invigorated me. Huh?
Or Brooklyn, where you went? Because you know I'm from Brooklyn.
I know you're from Brooklyn. You're from Bushwick, right? I started out in Crown Heights. I started out in Crown Heights, and so I've always had an affinity for Jamaican people. I used to say I probably was Jamaican in my last life, like me and Jamaican people. I guess I mean, some of the women, it depends, you know. I had a lot of Jamaican guy friends once upon a time. So like, the Caribbean energy. I lived in Miami for a little bit, and like the Black people there were like Jamaican and Haitian, you know. So there wasn't like Africans or whatever. And so being there, it was like, oh my God, it was just like every type of Blackness, you know? So yes, like I was big on Jamaican food. It was the closest thing I could get to like Nigerian food, you know, and kind of like a full spectrum. And so I just loved Brooklyn. I lived on Eastern Parkway in Utica. So I'm coming up the street and I was working corporate. I would get up early, you know, I walk up the street, I get my current rolls. And I get my ackee and saltfish.
There was a great restaurant around there. Because I lived on Bushwick, Eastern Parkway and Brooklyn Avenue before I came to LA. And there was a restaurant that everybody went to that it closed down eventually called Apache. Was it there when you were Apache?
I don't remember Apache.
The restaurant was always packed. Maybe it was gone by the time you got there.
You said it was on what street? It was on Brooklyn Avenue?
No, I lived on Brooklyn Avenue and Eastern Parkway. And then Apache was going on, you know, Crown Heights is interesting, as you already know. Mm-hmm. There's a Hasidim side and there's like the West Indian side, right?
It's not even a side, it's like block by block.
Yeah, because I lived actually across the street from the synagogue, and then when you cross across Eastern Parkway, a lot of West Indians on that side, right? So that's why I went to get the Apache food, and it was there, and that place was always crowded.
It might have been. I had so many options on Utica that I didn't even venture. Like it wasn't until I moved to Nostrand that I had to navigate a little bit more, you know. But ultimately I went to Nostrand and St. Mark's, and that was a whole other thing. But like the health food, I'm really big on food. Like I just love the vibration of like pure healthy food. And so Jamaica's really good on that with the carrot juices and, you know, all of like the vegan spots in Brooklyn at that time were almost pretty much all Jamaican owned. So, you know.
Jamaican starts restaurants like, let me see, who starts churches? Who starts a lot of churches? You know, that's how Jamaicans start restaurants. We like, you know, we pop up like, no, I don't know, Jamaicans so into their food. That's why. That's probably.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I love the way y'all do it. Big up to y'all. I love the way y'all handle food. Like I love y'all food so much. So I love Brooklyn. Go ahead.
I didn't want
trying to adjust your phone.
Yeah, I'm just trying to adjust my phone because I'm trying. You don't hear the echo, do you?
No, it's really faint. It's really faint. It's not driving me too crazy.
Okay, bet. So we good. So great, Brooklyn, dope. I want to get into for the viewers.
You gotta back up from your phone a little bit because it's too close to your face.
Try to figure this out. So it does see when I hold it like this, it doesn't show up on the StreamYard. It's crazy. I need like one of them stands, but I didn't figure that out.
Yeah, we're gonna invest. We're gonna invest in some things.
So talk about Blackness, right? You know, you said something about more knowledge of Blackness, right? That's one of the things that actually influenced you or sort of drove your passion to explore this part of media, right? There's often like, there's two questions really. Like, why is this important? I mean, from your perspective, right? You know, we grew up, at least I did, you know, watching stuff come out of Hollywood, right? And it influences you, even though you don't know it's influencing you, right? You know, why, from your perspective, is it important, not just for us to experience more Black storytelling and more diverse forms of Black storytelling, but why is it important the rest of the world does? Because in my mind, it's like, it's important for us to see it, but obviously, let me not say it's obvious, but I think it's clearly important that the rest of the world sees that too. Just so, why do you think the same? Do you think it's important that you think it's more us for us, or you think it's like, no, this is important for everybody to see? Does
You
that
know, I
make
only care about Black people. I just love being Black. I love Black people. I just everything Black all day, every day. You know, all people, we love all people.
Yeah.
And, you know, y'all can definitely rock with us and be allies. I have no hate in my heart for any people. But, like, it's just about Black people for me right now. We just need to clean up shop, clean house, take care of our own, you know. I got trauma. We all got trauma walking around as individuals. Let's take care of ourselves. You can't heal nobody. You can't give nobody else nothing until you give it to yourself first. So we got to focus on us. Like, nobody else. Like, right now, I'm just blinders on, you know. If other people want to support us, wonderful. Throw the money our way. Go to narlabs.org/donate. Give us your money. We are all here for the white money, the Asian money, all of that stuff. But our leadership is going to always be, I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say it, but, you know, if it's legal, we're going to have different, you know, different locations, but our leadership will be as Black as possible.
Well,
not 99.999999.
It's just about like highlighting the voice. In order to highlight the voice and perspective of Black people, you need people with that experience.
You need blinders on. We've been brainwashed for so long. Like, we need to know who we are. We need to figure out who we are. We don't have a clue who we are as Black people. And the only way we could do that is to put blinders on, study our shit, study our history, write our own stories, tell our own stories, focus on yourselves. The same shit that we're doing in therapy, right? It's like writing and rewriting your story. You know, how did it go and how could it have gone better? Like, what could we, you know, at what points could we have changed and improved, you know, our outcomes? That's the only thing Black people need to be worried about right now.
And that's great. Let me ask you this. What do you think, based on, this goes into Nar Press, right? My next question was, and it kind of, there's two parts to this question. You know, what makes your voice in Lolade, Nar Press distinct that people out here doing similarly, right? You know, yourself, I know of a couple other people, myself, you know, with a variation to it, right? But what makes your voice distinct in this sort of movement, right? Number one. Number two, let's start there because I think I forgot number two. So give me. I'll remember number two by the time you finish.
That's good. It's because I won't remember. I won't remember it even if you tell me now. What makes my voice? That's a great question, Evan. This is good. I was born global. I don't know. You know, I don't know how everything. You know, we always say like the million things that have to come and converge for you to be born and for you to have the journey that you have as an individual. Like, it's so unique, right? And so, if I just think about the convergence of my parents' lives, my uncle's life, and the fact that I got to be this global, for me, like, there's something special about that, you know? And so everything, when I look at Blackness, when I look at solutions, when I look at fashion, whatever it is I'm passionate about, I'm obsessed with textiles, I just think global, right? First, you know? And I'm thinking of Africa first, ultimately, right? Because everybody came from the continent. And it's like, what is the truth? What is the history? What is the goodness, the beauty, the power, the glory, the juice of our Black origins in Africa? You know what I mean? Like, that's ultimately what I'm concerned with. And so I guess with everything that we're creating, I'm also like bougie as fuck. Okay? I got Beyonce taste on a single mother student budget, okay? But I'm so bougie. You saw what I did with those fonts. I sent Evan some fonts one time. I was like, let's buy these $200 fonts.
Right, no, 300. I think it was 300. No, was it 200 or 300? I was like,
come on, Evan. We still gonna buy that font. I promise you, gonna buy that font.
Okay.
It's a gorgeous font. I'm obsessed. Huh?
I remember looking at it thinking, she knows this free fonts. Like, I've never heard of $300. Right, but
it's worth it because the beauty is everything. Because I be doing Deepak Chopra meditations. One of the questions was like, what is abundance mean to you, right? And I'm here, you know, I'm always teaching about abundance and how we can manifest and create the life that we want and, you know, the world that we want. And so, beauty. I'm an aesthete. I just love beauty, you know, whatever it is. I won't use it. I won't touch it. I won't buy it if it's not beautiful. You know?
I totally get it. I get that from my mother. My mother was the same way. She, you know, I really believe my mother was, and I get that thing from my mother, that sort of eye for beauty or something. It's weird. I don't know. It's not weird. It's good, actually. It's not weird. It's just like, oh, wow. You know, well, I had to figure out one day, where did I get that from? Oh, my mother does that. My mom was like that. I don't know if she...
Yeah, so when you talk about Nar Prize, Northwest, etc., for us, it's curated global beauty of Blackness, like the finest, most gorgeous elements of Blackness out there in the world. That's what I'm personally looking for. Right, and when I find those things, I'm collecting them, I'm aggregating them. I've been hoarding them. I've been hoarding them for years, and so now it's like, okay, how can I meet this out and share it with the world in a beautiful and systematic fashion?
Okay, I just remember the second question. I wasn't trying to interrupt you. Like, okay. Looking at Hollywood, right? So that's sort of the epicenter of media on the West, but it influences the entire world, right? Where you see where's the problem you're trying to fix with what they're doing? Besides, like, most of, like, I remember there was an essay by Bell Hooks I loved. I'll never forget. I don't remember the whole essay. It was a long essay, but she talked about how film is, it's called the oppositional gaze, right? And she was talking about how, in many ways, the way women are portrayed on film, or white women are portrayed on film, that it was done in a way that presented a subtle form of white supremacy, right? You know, sort of like, she said it was subtle. So I guess, you know, there are ways you can look at that when you watch any film. You know, when you watch like a film, what was that film that Hollywood used to do a lot? They still kind of do it. But I'm not going to say what film I haven't watched, but I believe they've done it in. When you have, like, you know, the white teacher, not like they're not white teachers, but they always seem to have white teachers in the hood who are going to make the kids better, right? Or they're always going to have, like, a male save the black people ultimately. You know what I mean? Like, say, not necessarily allyship, but literally save you, right? And so we know, you know, that's a distortion, right? Not that there aren't white people who put their lives on the line for black people. John Brown's one person, right? And there's some people like that in our history, right? So it really comes down to, and I'm a big believer in this, what's in people's hearts at the end of the day, right? You know? So where do you see, question, where do you see is that problem that Noir Press can fix, right? What's one of those problems? There's a lot of them. What's one that jumps out to you like, yeah, I can do this better. You know, I want to do this better. I want to try to do this better, so to speak. That makes sense?
For sure. I want to go back to what you said about the white women, Bell Hooks essay, white women in television. Television media is extreme. It's the most powerful tool out there. It's much more powerful than guns and bombs, than anything else you could do. Mm-hmm. Because the most, you know, effective way to control people is to program their minds with the beliefs that you want them to have, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you program them with these beliefs, they will do what you want, mm-hmm. right? And so I'm the ultimate conspiracy theorist. I'm just gonna have to accept it, right? Because you'd be like, oh, is there this grand conspiracy to control people? Yes, there is. Every government in the world has a grand conspiracy to control its citizens, right? One way or the other. They find a way to kind of manipulate outcomes. That's why we have the state of the world that we have today, because you have individual people, you know, with their own demons manifesting their hatred and their wickedness onto others, mm-hmm. right? And so, yes, every state media, every country's media, like, they have a particular message that they are allowing into the world, right? Mm-hmm. They're very careful about what kind of message. That's why you have all these boards that dictate, like, what can be on television, right? And they're regulated by the government, right? And sometimes we think that whatever their decisions are, you know, are fair and it makes sense. And sometimes we don't, right? And the first thing that pops up for me is India. I'm obsessed with Bollywood. I love Bollywood films. I'm gonna talk more about why that is. But they are very careful about the image they project into the world. Mm. If you were to watch, you know, a lot of Bollywood films, you would think like, oh, there's nobody ugly in India. Everybody's fair skinned and it's just all dancing and, you know, la 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 all the time. right? They've done an incredible job of investing heavily in their media, government at all levels, right? And so the images that you see projected of India out into the world are glorious. It's like, oh, I want to live in this country, huh?
You're private or public? Bollywood's private. It's private enterprise, correct? Bollywood.
I mean, so I guess to my point, like, there's nothing is ever truly private, right? Because in order for you to get that big, you have to be in partnership with the government on some level, right? For any kind of industry, right? The government has to support you, because if you're doing things that they don't like, they're going to block your way, right? And so in Bollywood, there's a lot of, very powerful media individuals, right? Yash Chopra is one of them, because I watch a lot of his films. Dear Zara is a classic. But one of the things I'll say about Bollywood is, they had regulations up until recently, like you couldn't kiss in their films. You know what I mean? Like if your actors kissed, that film was not to be shown in theaters. And so you had like the Bollywood that everybody knows and hears about, and then you have like underground Indian cinema, which is like not just white Indians, right? But a whole diverse, India is a very diverse country, right? So not to spend too much time on them, but just to say, like, media is extremely powerful. You can control what your citizens do by the stories that you tell them. And that's the world that we live in right now. Every country is dictating a particular message to their, citizens that influences their behavior, their buying behavior, consuming behavior, their cultural, social behavior, right? And so as an artist, no matter how creative you are limited to some extent by these, these governmental restrictions, these private industry restrictions, just like what we see in Hollywood, right? Like, so hard to get Black films made because the people who control the structures are like, no, I don't want to see that. That's not important to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's not what I want to invest in.
Right.
And so when you say, I think the question had to do with like, why, how are we distinct and all of that? And
the problem you're trying to, that you think
the problem.
Right.
Yeah. So like, everything that you see in the Black world, there's a book by Orlando Patterson, I think from Harvard, Black Social Death. And he talks about how everywhere in the world you see Black people, like we are at the bottom, like everywhere, economically, in terms of health, in terms of, every marker, every socioeconomic marker you can look at, you would see that anywhere you look in the world, Black people are at the bottom.
Okay. I'm gonna make a point when you're done. Go ahead. When you're done.
Okay. So for me, like, that's what motivates me. That's what drives me. Because why the fuck? Like, why are we at the bottom of the barrel everywhere in the world?
Especially
that's not okay. That's not okay. Everything, and everybody's killing us everywhere, all over the world, and I'm not okay with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I took a class. I'll never forget this. I took a class at Yale in the business school called Urban Something and Economic Development, something like that. Urban Renewal, something like that. And you read a lot of case studies, man. I swear, if I had put money down, like every case study I read for every city, it could be like some random city that we don't even know that well. Like, let me like one time somebody told me, I think it may still be the case, that I think the murder capital per so many thousand people, the highest murder rate was like, I don't know if it's still the same, was like Stockton, California, right? And then we hear, at least in the news, a lot of stuff going on in Chicago. Most of those people dying from gun violence, or Black or brown. But besides just murder rates, also just economically, you notice a lot of and I swear, if I had, I don't even know how to articulate this, but I got tired of every case study I read. It don't matter what city it was. We were at the bottom. We were the ones by the railroad tracks. We were the ones struggling. And then meanwhile, you have this class, and that was another young brother in class. You might know him, man. Real brilliant brother named Vance. You know Vance?
I know Vance. Vance Lewis.
And I remember thinking, man, I don't think I need, you get tired of reading that because you're seeing this has been going on for years. Everybody in there doing these sort of groups to solve the problem. Half time solving problems by finding more money or starting some program.
Raping children.
Right. Well, we didn't get into
I'm not even gonna get into that. Okay.
No, doing some economic program. Typically, these programs I saw lasted as long as somebody was in the administration. Who the mayor served? 6 years, 5, 6 years. That's not going to be solved in 5, 6 years. That's not going to be solved in the term of your congressman. That's not going to be solved. And then you have some of these congressmen, don't even get me started, who are black congressmen who've been in a specific area for years. And they're still at the bottom. And
you got some paper. You got some paper next to your microphone or something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm not moving. This is my script. I'm not gonna move. You can see you me now, right?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So I got tired of seeing that, and I was like, I don't even want to hear. I don't to the point where I don't even want to hear about us at the bottom anymore. I know we're the bottom, So how do we get up from there? And just like how you're doing Nar Press and me, Aranthea, I came to the conclusion that no one's going to save us. We have to save ourselves. I'm going to ask this last question before we move into the next part for you, just because we're at 40 minutes. 10 years from now, what does Nar Press look like? 10 years.
Ooh.
A decade from now.
Oh, the decade of Black glory. Ooh. I'm glad you asked that. We have a building in Dakar. We got, we print in books.
For sure.
We got offices in Brooklyn and in Oakland. Oh, we lost you, Evan.
We did.
Come back to the Instagram live.
No, what happens? This phone. I'm sorry about that. What happens if I'm holding the phone? Oh no, it says I'm coming right back. Hold on. Oh crap. All right. There you go. I'm back. Here you are. You got me? The request. So what happens? I'm holding the phone.
Let me see if it comes in because my phone is also. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Okay, here it is. There you go. Finally. Good grief. Come on.
Oh, we got two different Facebook Lives going. Interesting. I didn't realize. Okay. I learn new things every day. Huh?
We have Facebook Live going now. Good grief.
I got two. We got to go on Instagram and StreamYard. So
oh my God.
We learn the tech. But okay, Nar, I want to talk about Nar Labs 10 years from now. Because just for anybody who's watching who doesn't know the infrastructure, Nar Labs is the parent organization covering Nar Press and Nar Fest, right? And so at Nar Labs, we inspire and operationalize Black liberation through art, technology, and community building. And Nar Press is our first, major product, and Nar Press is a media company, right? And so we put out, right now you see our socials, we have a blog, we put out content on Black glory, Black genius as often as we can. If you want to help us make it more often, join our team, send your message. But what we've been doing is really curating people, curating content, news that really highlights the power and the glory of Black people, right? And that illustrates and communicates, who we are, who we truly are, right? Because we're the original people, we're the glorious people. Like there's nobody comes close to Black people. Like what you're talking about with the violence, that's what gets me. Like every day, think about how Black people are just dying unnecessarily, like dying and suffering like all over the world. Just this whole social death thing that we're talking about. Why is that? And it ultimately boils down to like us getting disconnected from who we are. Because we're the original people, we're glorious people, we're powerful people, and I love that you're focused on faith at Aranthea because like that's the one thing that nobody can touch when it comes to us, right?
Yeah, I'm listening. Mm-hmm.
I'm still studying melanin, and I hope to share more information about melanin in the short term. But like melanin makes us extremely powerful, and one of the key, I guess dimensions of confusion that we've experienced is like the lack of knowledge about melanin and the power that we have as Black people, right? And so when we talk about media and the messages that governments and private individuals want to get, broadcast across the globe, it's not ever about the power and the beauty and the glory of melanin and the fact that Black people can literally overthrow everything just by coming together in agreement on what we want, because ultimately when that happens, the world lines up, everything falls into place.
That's fantastic. It's funny you say that. I hope I didn't cut you off. Did you get to finish what you were trying to say?
No, you're good. I think so.
Okay. Because this actually segues into what we're going to talk about briefly, was talking about power and purpose. just to use to bridge to that one. I remember, was it last year? I did one of my frat brothers did a Kwanzaa celebration in his house, and I got to, I guess, do the blessing or prayer at the end of it. And one of the things I said, and I agree with you, I think we need to talk about more is our resilience as people. You know, there was a black economist who it's funny. Some people have issues with people being conservative or liberal. I don't. He's a conservative economist, and I was listening to him, and he said, you know, when slavery ended, he said, and think about it. And when you think about just not just the fact that people weren't giving us no money, we weren't getting no education, all up into the Great Migration, our schools weren't even getting funded. Like kids had to go to teachers, black people had to go to the garbage dump and get books from the white schools throughout.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And we still here.
Right.
And we still here.
He said that this economist, his name's Thomas Sowell, where people want to know who he is. He said it's remarkable that we were able to I forgot how he broke it down. I can't say it like him, but he said the fact that we're able to be something percent literate, given now, is something that should be celebrated.
I should let you know that we gods on earth.
That should let you know something. So I think that we have to remind through media, black people, and I think in doing so, you educate those people who want to be educated, who are ignorant of sort of not just struggle, but of just the power of what we're able to overcome, and give by sort of highlighting the resilience and power and achievement that we're able to have in spite of all those things, right? And then we go, even when we get into lynching, get into all that other stuff in the United States, but there's stuff we can get into in other nations too, you know, in the Caribbean as well, in terms of like, you know, inferiority, superiority complexes, right? So I think that that being said, I agree with you. Talking about power and purpose, we're gonna come to our last part, which is, and this is quite appropriate, Chadwick Boseman, power and purpose. You got a chance to see his speech, his Howard speech?
Oh, I saw clips of it. You know, I want to touch on something you talked about, struggle, and I'll tie that into Chadwick because that's one of the reasons I love him so much, the roles that he played and how they deviated from the usual script, right? And so the fact that most of what we see of Black people in media, in film, you know, television is about struggle. It's either struggle or buffoonery, right? It's like those are the two, you know, top products out of Hollywood is Black struggle and Black buffoonery, and so. If we don't see that, and we replace those images with Black power, right? Our behavior changes, right? We just naturally move in the world differently. It doesn't even take a classroom, right? I think that film, television, media should be used to educate and empower people, you know, and it should be done in a beautiful and transparent way, in a way that really just uplifts and enlightens and empowers us, you know, to be able to, you know, so even going beyond resilience, it's like literally, like you said, power, you know, and for us collectively, what purpose could look like, that depends on the conversations that we are yet to have. We have to be in agreement as Black people that these are the top 10 things we want in the next decade. And I have to come back to the question you asked about, you know, Nar Labs 10 years from now. I don't know if I finished answering that, but we have to come together as Black folk, you know, Black folk who want change and who are not taking no for an answer and who are not asking permission. Black folk who are not asking permission to build the world that we want, that serves us, that puts us in a position of, you know, health and power and glory and joy, and we have everything that we want, you know, and our children have the full access to like education and land ownership and cultivation of, you know, just of the planet that is wholesome and that is good. We don't need to ask permission for that, right? And so it's like when we come together and, you know, answer the questions of like what we actually want individually and collectively as Black people, then we're able to have a purpose. Then we're able to have a collective purpose and say, okay, this is what we're working towards. And here's the council, the Global Black, you know, Liberators Council. Maybe I just created that, right? The Global Black Liberators Council meets once a day, once a week, once a month, whatever it is, to say like, this is what, this is what we're working on. This is how we're making sure that our work supports each other. This is how we're going to check our differences at the door and focus on our agreements, right? Because Black people, we are an incredibly variegated race. I don't even know how many, languages globally, but on the continent of Africa, you're talking about thousands of languages. Mm-hmm. They be quoting 700, 1,000. No, it's like when you talk about the dialects, like my dad and my stepmom, like the whole other dialect of Yoruba, they also a whole ass other language. They be telling us it's dialects, but like it's completely unintelligible to your average Yoruba speaker. So we got mad languages, we have mad culture. So we're very variegated, but there's certain things that we all can agree on. And I think the one that everybody's in agreement on right now is that we don't want to be shot down in the street like dogs, right? Like that's an absolute no, And so when we can come together, and I've been writing my own sort of my 10 agreements, my 10, dreams for Black people, how I feel like we should, what we should move towards. When we can come together on those ideas and really check in about that consistently, then we're making progress, and we're tracking our movement in the direction of these goals, then we're making progress. Then we have purpose, then we have power. Just by having purpose, we have power, right? Because that purpose, that outcome that you're driving towards is what's inspiring you to get up every day and do this work every day. That vision that you see, that dream that you see, it's like, that's why we're not motivated, because nobody's really showing us the dream. I mean, thank God for Ryan Coogler and Black Panther, and that's Chadwick Boseman brings it all home, full circle, right? Right. Time we really had a fucking glorious dream. What other Black film story, anything, has given us what Black Panther gave us? And that's why, of course, every Black person was like absolutely devastated by Chadwick's passing, because like, that vision is beyond. If Ryan Coogler did nothing else in this lifetime, right, he would have given so much to Black people and Black generations across the globe for eternity.
Right.
Just by giving us that vision.
It's funny because Chadwick said something. He talks his entire speech about, really, if you boil it down, it's about purpose and the power. Mm-hmm. He talked something interesting. He said, "Purpose crosses disciplines." That's what he said. He said, "Purpose crosses disciplines," and he said it is an essential element of you, right? And I don't know if we talked about this, but when he used that term, it's funny. I wouldn't have known that term unless I knew. I think we did talk about this, unless I knew that there's something in film called essential element insurance. So being who he was probably under essential element insurance. Essential element insurance is that insurance you give that person on the film who let me put it another way. If there's a movie being done and there's 3 people and it's me, you, and Chadwick Boseman, who's going to get the regular insurance and who's going to get the essential element insurance? Chadwick Boseman. Why? Because Chadwick Boseman is a movie star and Black Panther, and nothing happens, no money comes in unless Chadwick Boseman's in this film. And so he gets the insurance, right? So he said it is an essential element of you. He talks about purpose. And that really hit me, man, because and he talked about across the discipline, but he also talked about how everything we've done is really sort of moving us to our purpose, right? You taking our classes, you having going to school, not doing the arts right away, all that stuff. Your experience in I think where was it in as a little girl with the little white girl who's me, right?
Oh, in the UK, in London, Wimbledon.
Right. Oh, and you remember that. All those things have sort of moved you toward your purpose, right? So so I guess it was just trying to I guess that's one of the things I put there. What can we learn from Chad? I guess that's one of the things I learned for sure, and it definitely helps even what we're doing here, because even the very fact that we got the name of President to come from another man of purpose, James Baldwin, right? And the whole idea, I don't have the wherewithal to look it up right now, but the whole idea is that you're creating something for yourself. You're hoping as you do it, you're not creating enemies in the process. You ain't trying to create anything. You're just trying to create something for yourself. You're just trying to create something for yourself. So, but you will create enemies when you're trying to create something for yourself. I think, and that goes into another thing we could bring up at some point, because that was a theme I wanted to cover. We probably won't have time to do it. We could talk about it one time when is the whole sort of working outside of Hollywood, because what we're both talking about takes, I believe, a risk. It takes risk. It's not going to be the majority of people are going to want to take that kind of risk, because right now, the purse strings are the people who own the purse strings predominantly for media on Hollywood, and they're not as interested per se in maybe what we're doing, right? That's why we talked about. So we got to that. We're going to delve into, I guess, economics at some point, but that's a big part of it. And those who have sort of the vision and mission to sort of disrupt things, that we put a lot at risk there in terms of, because it's just reality, no matter what industry you're in, right? So at some point we'll come back to that. But so any final thoughts?
You said it. You said you're great at this. You said all the things. I think I was thinking about what you said about the essential element. We are the essential element as Black people. I want to touch on that. We are the essential element. Nothing moves on this planet without us.
Why? Tell me why.
Oh, everything. Everything started with us, right? Everybody's knowledge comes from us, and it continues to be influenced by us. And all this money that you see moving around the planet is because of Black people.
I can definitely,
it's because of the free labor that we gave to the United States and the investment they were able to put in every other country in the world, and the way they've been able to just take over, just ownership of the whole fucking planet. That comes from our free labor, the wealth that we generated for them. We are the essential element, and so no matter what they do to us, we still come hard. Right. We still inspire. We still are the ones that everybody wants to be like. So there's so many other things. We have to do this more often. Like, we don't talk because I have so much more to say. We can't say forever.
I definitely think we're an essential element as well that we don't talk about. Well, we talk about it, but we don't really realize as much as we need to. It's culturally, just our impact. This is a big up for Jamaica, right? I'm just gonna big up Jamaica on this, right? Like Jamaica got what? Maybe 3 million people there on the island, right? Apparently there's more Jamaicans outside the island than there are on the island.
In the island. Wow.
Maybe 5 million other Jamaicans around the world, maybe, right? Wow. Estimated, I think. Somebody can correct me, when we post this, and somebody want to correct me on it, they can. But we do know there's more. Now that little island, right, created reggae, right? Oh shoot, okay, now
okay. Yeah, the Instagram, we're done on Instagram, so I'm gonna just post it and tell them to come to YouTube if they want to watch the rest.
But that little island, right, we created reggae, right? So reggae carries an influence around.
And you also popularized Rastafarianism, which is a whole other thing to come to.
Right. Just so so I don't know as much about it, but we did popularize that, and that's connected to Ethiopia. Correct? I don't know that much. Maybe back to Mitt being there. I am Jamaican, but I think that
okay. So we all learning.
All right. So we look at the cultural impact we have, right, and around the world, man. In music, in science.
That's our power.
And
that's
so
power. The music, storytelling.
Right, and I think that's a divine gift. I remember one to say it's interesting. Years ago, I went to this Christian men's conference. I don't know if it's still around, called Promise Keepers, right? Okay. This guy got up. He was a white man who was a missionary, who he was talking about how he really believed different people groups have different gifts, and he says he believes. This is what he said. He said he believes like indigenous people have gifts in terms of in the spiritual. They kind of, he said Europeans, he said, have gifts as far as exhortation. What he meant by that is the Europeans get up and explore in a minute, right? So they'll go off and when they have a sign, alligators here. Black people be like, yo, there's alligators here. Europeans would be like, oh, we don't see the alligators like what's his name said. You watch around and you got to prove there's an alligator there for the right. We're looking at it like, oh, there's an alligator.
Wow.
He said that this is interesting. This is it. This is kind of to the punchline of this one. He said African people have the gift of leadership. And I said, this is a white man. And he said, you know, whole African pastors and that. And they said, what do you mean we have the gift of leadership? Look at what's going on here, blah, blah, blah. He said, no. He said that's what he, in his maybe like 30 years of experience around the world. I forgot what he said about Asian people. I just remember those specific things. But of course, the African one stuck with me. He said, and I believe that people who have the gift of leadership, you know, I think that's what we have. I agree with them, because given what we've been through, we're able to sort of see things from perspective that others can't. For example, when you've been, there's a test that I saw called, I forgot the name of it, where they kind of test privileges or whatever. It's just like you take questions they have and you go further. I forgot what it's called, the privilege walk. I don't know what it's called. But what's interesting about it is that the further back you are, right, based on whatever opportunities you may not have had, right, doesn't mean you can't succeed in spite of them. Right? You're not making excuses for not having opportunities. Because some people you can't help how you were born in some respects, right? Mm-hmm. But you know, but the idea was the more marginalized you've been, right, the more you're able to kind of see, you're kind of seeing everything from the back as opposed from the front. So you have a better view of I don't know if life, or a better view or life perspective than others would, right?
That's
so maybe that is what makes you more qualified to lead, particularly if you have, right? You've been through some stuff. If somebody hasn't been through anything, do you want them to lead you? They can't lead a group of people because they can't. Like I talked about myself. I've been like in the biggest movies in the world, right? Had to like do security at the club, you know, with people making like $10 an hour, right? Mm-hmm. So I have a perspective, right? That, from like that for me personally, that maybe a lot of guys don't have. One time somebody was, I was making a comment. I'm gonna close out because we like over an hour, and then you can say your final thoughts, and we're gonna talk about where you can find us, right? I remember one time, a friend of mine, what's her name? Ryder. There's riots going on in Brooklyn. And I didn't like the riots, and I had some issues with it. And then she said, Evan, well, you're a little bit sort of privileged. You're not like, basically she was saying in her way, you're not on the streets, close to the streets. Like you haven't had the experience of the streets these people had. I said, well, wait a minute. I said, I remember. I had to tell us, like, I remember growing up, 1976 Brooklyn, pre-gentrified Brooklyn, eating fried bologna and cheese and government cheese and government bologna. Mm-hmm. I remember, the roaches. I remember the mice in the house. I remember my grandmother. We had these things. We catch the mice live. You know what she would do? This is gonna sound horrible for the petty people, but I'm gonna tell you what she did. She would boil water. She'd tell these old Jamaican women, these old Jamaican, old African women, they do not care, especially when they come. He boiled some water, took that thing outside, and went over that cage, and I would watch because she was making an example of him, like she's an old Jamaican country woman, man. They don't. But the thing is, when
you gotta live with those things a lot, like you gotta come a little. My landlord will not kill a fly.
Yeah, so I was just like, I've had to deal with that stuff in my space, right? Like a privileged space of an immigrant family, So I was like, no, I was in pre-gentrified Brooklyn when the riots was going on. There was no white people. We was riding into them. So I try to come from a perspective where where I tried to show and I said this in a nice way, obviously, because she's a friend of mine. I was like, look, yeah, no, I'm not as privileged as you think, But anyway,
clawed our way up in the world.
Yeah. So we're gonna close
I appreciate
out.
that, and I think those with privilege have a responsibility. We have a responsibility, especially to the spaces that we come from. Yeah. So you said you wanted us to just tell where people can find us, right?
Where can we follow you? And we can follow you.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, Lolade Shiombola, at Lolade Shiombola. Follow Nar Press at Nar Press on Instagram, at Nar Press. There's an underscore. It'll come up for you. We got the little, white diamond on black. So yeah, follow Nar Press, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and come back here and on YouTube so that when we go live every time. Don't miss these episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Follow us. Get the notifications on Facebook, Instagram, all of it.
And I'm gonna repost this episode and episode 1 too. I'm gonna repost on my Facebook page, so you'll get them on both our Facebook. I'll post them. So if you miss them, obviously, if someone missed it, they'll be able to see it. You can also follow me at Evan. I think it's Evan Park on. No, forget Facebook. Evan Park on Facebook. Okay. At Amethyr Media Capital. At Amethyr Media Capital on Instagram. Sorry. At Evan the Conqueror on Instagram. My YouTube page, you don't have to follow that yet.
You need subscribers.
No, you can
subscribers up.
You can follow when I launch Scorch. That's a podcast I'm going to launch in October. So that's going to be more focused on faith and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. I'm excited to hear that.
So I got to figure that out.
Oh my goodness. If you go to Nar Press, follow us. Make sure you join our mailing list because we have a fire newsletter that we just launched a couple weeks ago. So next episode, next edition is coming out this Wednesday. So make sure you are on the mailing list to get it. Cool. All right.
Well, thank you.
Let's bless the people. Stay blessed. Stay covered.
Blessed. Stay covered.
Eat
your greens. Get
meditate.
You I was gonna say get you a Fitbit, but Fitbit ain't paying us, right? So
I don't know about Fitbit. Just move, man. Just get a walking buddy. Yeah.
All right.
Move. Cool. Water. We love y'all. Take it easy.
Love y'all. Bless.
All right. Thanks, Ayo, for watching. Love you.